This is just an example of how I go about making a circuit board. I start out with a sheet of G10, which you could purchase online. This is not a full sheet. A piece has already been cut off. They usually come 12 inches square approximately, sometimes a little bit smaller. But of course you have to have the facility to be able to cut them into something the size of your circuit board. I make my own circuit board by designing it in Corel Draw, and then I print it out full size and glue it in place. My boards are 2 and 13/16 by 12. That just gives me an idea about how big the piece is going to be and roughly where to put my piece of tape. Okay, so that's the cut line. So I put the piece of G10 on the bandsaw and I freehand cut it very carefully. And once it's cut, if there's anything inaccurate in the edges, I just run it along a long file and it cleans it up perfectly straight. So anyway, while doing this, I wear a mask, and there is also a gizmo that I made that hooks up to the vacuum cleaner. So even though the saw does have a vacuum cleaner port, it's not convenient for my setup. So I may do with something else. So always wear a mask and always have a vacuum cleaner sucking it in, because this stuff is nasty. Okay, so just take a flat file, not too fine and not too gritty, you know, kind of medium, and just run it back and forth a number of times. Try to get equal weight. Eyeball it, and that's almost perfect. Ooh, feels like a machine did it. Okay, and then of course I'm still wearing a mask. I vacuum this stuff off and vacuum the mat. Next step is I take like this kitty glue. I get it at Staples. The reason why I use it is because it sticks good enough to hold the copy of the circuit board in place, and it's easy enough just to wet it and the whole thing just peels right off in one piece. So I just goop it up. Okay. Then carefully lay it on down, and boom, all done. Now I could put it on the drill press and punch out all the holes for my eyelets. Okay, now I go over to the garbage can, dump all this stuff in the garbage, vacuum up, and move to the next procedure. Okay, the next procedure is to take this to a sink and just wet this down really nice and just peel this off and get any residual glue that's on there. It's all water soluble, so it's not a big deal. It only takes a minute. As you can see, the circuit paper came off completely perfectly. Now here's the board after it's been rinsed off and dried. Now the back side of the board has some little bits of blowout. So what I like to do is take a drill driver and a bevel. Doesn't have to be a bevel. It could be like a, I don't know, 3/16 drill bit, and just lightly clean all these up, like so. Doesn't require a lot of pressure. Not only does it neaten it up, but when you take the eyelet and punch it through from the top, and then you have to take, I think, well, it's called a punch or an anvil, and you smack it down, it allows for the eyelet to spread nice and evenly over a softer, what do you want to call it, exit, rather than one that's squared off. This is now a little bit rounded or beveled, so it's better for the eyelet, the seating of the eyelet. You don't need to watch me do this. Okay, here they are, all cleaned up. Okay, now flip it over. This is the way it goes into the amplifier. Now, 3 of these holes are for standoffs, so they have to be enlarged. Sorry, these are for standoff, for the screws of the standoffs. I think it's this one, but I don't remember. Yep. Okay, here's the eyelets, which I buy in bulk. I use like a fiberglass hammer. You don't want to smack these things too hard. And this sets the eyelet from the rear of the board. And this I use, some of you may laugh. I'll show you what I do. I used to use a drill press to do this, but I don't any longer because this method works just as good and it's less wear and tear on the drill press. Some people actually get a press that presses these in. Again, the amount of labor is the same as far as I'm concerned. So I take the jeweler's screwdriver, put the eyelet on it, and I have a hole drilled in my bench. You can see right there. Let me move this. I have a hole drilled in the bench right there, so it passes through. I just give it 1, 2, 3 light taps, and there it is sticking out the other side. So what I like to do is space these about 1.5 inches, 2 inches, so that the sharp edge on the other side doesn't eat up too much of my bench. And after I've done a number of them, say 6 or 8, I'll flip it over. I'll flip it over and set the eyelets. Now again, you don't hit this too hard. All you want to do is set it flush with the board. Okay, so turn it over. I just take a metal plate. You can use any metal plate you have lying around. You can get a metal plate from an electrical 1900 box. And then take the setting tool. Give it 2 good whacks. These eyelets are actually 1 size too long for this material, but it doesn't matter. They're setting up beautifully. So there you go. That's how I take care of business. All right, I'll show it to you when I'm done. Okay, here's the board complete. Both sides. This is completely staked. By the way, I had forgotten, this is actually called a staking tool. You can buy them online. And one of the reasons why I drilled out these 3 holes after I drilled all the holes is because these have to fit number 6 screws for my amplifiers to hold the standoffs in place. And I don't want to accidentally put an eyelet into one of these holes. So by drilling it out to the proper size, the eyelet won't fit.